Analytical paragraphs written by Janet Lake for English 1 as an example of an analytical paragraph that the students wrote on December 1st, November 30th for English 1 at Morse High School. This is a comparative analysis of I'm Nobody, Who Are You by Emily Dickinson, and a passage from Sherman Alexie's The True Diary of a Part-Time Indian. And this is done because we are studying what it means to be othered in America. And so I'm going to read Emily Dickinson's poem first. I'm nobody. Who are you? Are you nobody too? Then there's a pair of us. Don't tell. They'd advertise, you know. How dreary to be somebody. How public, like a frog, to tell one's name the livelong June to an admiring bog. Emily Dickinson's poem, I'm Nobody, Who Are You, is a bold statement of the superiority of a nonconformist over the people and society she lived in, and any society really that sucks up to celebrities and seeks popularity. By stating that the speaker of the poem is nobody, readers might at first think this is negative, because Americans have always endeavored to be somebody. Dickinson intends for the first stanza to give the impression that the speaker and the listener or reader are outside the public circle and would be othered by society as nobodies if they told people. Don't tell. They'd advertise, you know. She uses the rare second-person narrative where the speaker speaks directly to her audience, bringing the reader in as if to a secret shared between only you and the speaker. In the first stanza, she makes it seem like being a nobody is wrong or bad by not wanting to share it. Don't tell. But Dickinson was a recluse. She wanted nothing to do with her society and stayed in her house and only wanted one friend to read her poetry. She uses non-traditional punctuation and poetic form to express how she is rebellious and doesn't want to do what society thinks is right. Her excessive use of exclamation points and dashes is uncommon in poetry, but for her, makes her point boldly, unashamedly, and in a way that rejects the rules of punctuation set by the status quo that she insults. Dickinson wrote in the mid-1800s when women weren't really allowed to go to college or to vote or to have a career the way men were, and slavery was a way of life in America. Dickinson hated her society's beliefs and stayed away from them. The second stanza is a shift that expresses her feelings about the people who would other her as a nobody. How dreary to be somebody is unexpected after keeping the secret about being a nobody in the first stanza. Dickinson's use of simile to compare people to frogs croaking for attention from society that she compares to a bog is the insult she boldly expresses, one that is doubly harsh because it comes from a nobody. She illustrates the picture of a person telling their name all summer to admirers in society. To tell one's name the livelong June to an admiring bog, an activity that women and men her age did in order to fit in, be popular, admired, and famous in their social circles. Instead of joining in, complimenting the people who act that way, or making a positive statement about a society where being somebody is something to aspire to, she throws them all in the mud of the swamp with the frogs and expresses the speaker's superiority over them as a nobody who isn't just a big-mouthed frog. The first stanza is seen in a different light when it is contrasted with the second stanza. Her declaration that the speaker and the listener are nobodies is not negative or bad like she led us to believe, but the best thing to be in her world. By the time we reach the end of the poem, We are relieved that we are nobodies and happy that we are outside the social circle of frogs in a bog. Dickinson is making a harsh statement and teaching that it is better to be a nobody in a society that is shallow, dirty, ugly, and stupid than a somebody and admired by people who try to be that way on purpose. She uses simile and non-traditional grammatical and poetic forms to express her theme that being an other in an effed up society is better than being part of the group. Sherman Alexie's passage from the novel The True Diary of a Part-Time Indian similarly rejects the speaker's society, suggesting that going far, far away from it is the best course of action. Alexie uses dialogue instead of second-person narrative and metaphor and repetition instead of simile to express the same thing as Dickinson. It is better to be an outsider of a sad, horrible society than to be part of the group. Junior's teacher shifts Junior's hopelessness at being suspended from school, cast out of the circle of acceptance in society, to hopefulness at the idea of getting away from there to live a better life on his own. The shift occurs in the second half of the dialogue, just as Dickinson's occurred in the second stanza of the poem. Alexie uses metaphor when Junior thinks, he is a math teacher. I have to add hope to hope, multiply hope, meaning that if Junior goes away and finds other people who are hopeful, then he too will be able to be hopeful because their attitude will rub off on him. In contrast, staying there would lead to more fighting and Junior's metaphorical death at the hands of a society that doesn't agree with him. Alexie conveys the realization that the positive outcome exists when one is not aspiring to be somebody in society, rather to self-exclude from it, just as Dickinson had done, but Alexie uses repetition. Junior's teacher repeats, you fought, and sad, 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 to emphasize the way society is no good, and Junior is superior to the people in it because he fights against them. Alexie's choice for his protagonist to decide to go his own way off the reservation of his childhood conveys the theme that it is better to go against a society that is hopeless than to live in it and let it kill you. Both these texts make being the other of society a positive rather than a negative. This is done to show that those who are othered from a brutal or shallow society, that kind of society is not anyone. It's not a society that anyone wants to be in anyhow.